Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the CABE for Women webinar. Today, we are looking at magic solutions, shaping the future of construction with the CABE for Women panel. So my name is Abby and I am the Communications, Marketing and Events Coordinator here at CABE. I'll be acting as moderator for this morning's session alongside my colleague, Lauren Almy, who is the Publications and Communications Lead at CABE. CABE strives to create interactive webinars, and if you are watching live, you can use the Q&A function to submit questions, which will be addressed at the end of the session, time permitting. You are also welcome to contact us at webinars@cbuilde.com. I will now hand over to Lindsay Richards, who will begin the panel. So over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Lindsay Richards. I'm chair of the CABE for Women group, former CABE board director and current RICS professional group construction. The CABE for Women group includes a diverse mix of professions within our industry. Supported by CABE, we aim to address current industry problems and offer support to all genders within the industry. I was invited to a fantastic event this week at RSS HQ, which was quite timely. It brought together across industry, senior figures, rising stars from across the built environment to analyse where the skills gap is most acute and explore creative yet practical ways to close it. So if we firstly consider the government's pledge to deliver 50 million new homes, creating 60,000 new jobs, the shortfall in construction alone is 250,000, more than 4 times the number targeted. And it's been suggested the gap is more of an abyss than a gap. We're all aware of the challenges. We've got an ageing workforce, a lack of interest from younger generations, a lack of awareness, as well as misconceptions about careers in the built environment, which we're going to touch on today. So what can be done to close the skills gap and ensure the industry not only has the right number of people, but the right sort of people with the right skills in the right locations? We need to explore practical yet creative ways to narrow, if not bridge, that gap. Mark Farmer, who's present on Monday, has urged construction leaders to face the disruptive potential of AI on the sector's white-collar workforce. He warns that the industry is missing a trick by focusing too narrowly on just the trade skills shortages. He argues that the debate around the lack of tradespeople is well known, but professional services must stand against an equally profound challenge. So firstly, what skills will our future workforce possess that we think they'll need? And I'm talking about traditional skills and professional skills here, huge gaps in each of these areas. And what about the digital challenges to both? There are different strategies based on the areas we're addressing, but whatever the approach, we need to consider a more diverse entrant, whether from schools, universities, or upskilling in attracting women, for example, to consider changing career paths and swapping professions. And we're seeing a little bit of an indication of that happening. We know the number of women in our industry is increasing, but it's still incredibly slow. Could the future professional profiles within the industry change to offer more appeal to young people, women, and new entrants generally? So Mark Farmer also suggested that the future of construction relies on upskilling, not just talent attraction. He suggests that the skills challenges can't be solved just by inspiring the next generation into the sector alone. I recently read a post that suggested that most school children are interested in being influencers. It's just not construction influencers. He thinks that although attracting new entrants, the biggest opportunity lies within the people already working within our industry. So there are a few questions here that we're going to be hopefully addressing today and hearing some insightful input from our audience and panel. We invite inspirational women to share their professional career paths and to give their insights into the issues that they address. The skills gap is always on our agenda. Today, we're delighted to welcome our special guests, Veronica Fiore, who's CABE VP, Vice President, and Hanna Clarke, Digital and Policy Manager of the Construction Products Association. Firstly, Benvenuta Veronica, can I introduce you, can I ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your career path?
Thank you, Lindsay. I should say grazie. Thank you, everyone. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you, everyone, really, to be here and listen to my story. Quite humbled, actually. In terms of my career path, and as you can probably tell by my accent, I'm Italian. So I did my study back in Italy. It's a very male-dominated environment. And even back in Italy, I'm a qualified building surveyor in Italy. So as I starting the building surveyor in Italy, I was working with an architect near Milan. And that's how I started my career. I've been in the construction industry for 20 years, pretty much. Looking at the calendar now, yes, pretty much 20 years. It's been a fantastic journey. And then in terms of my personal career, I started from the ground, literally, from the beginning, from nothing. And then I've been able to, I decided to move country nearly 13 years ago. And then I've learned a lot along the journey. Even moving from Italy, so a very male-dominated environment, to the UK. And I found, I think generally I faced, as a woman in construction, a lot of challenges in both countries. More so, well, as at the beginning, a young woman in Italy, where women in the construction industry are not very much valued, I suppose. And the reason actually that I decided to leave my country was purely professional, is because I was involved with the professional bodies of surveyor in Italy. And then the president at the time, there was a good connection, but it was quite vocal in saying that there were other people in front of me. I could not really, men, I could not progress as I wanted, quite ambitious. So I said, well, this doesn't quite align with my values, belief, and then even in the country, I said, that's not what I would expect from my country, really. So I decided to leave the country. It was 13 years ago. And then I came to the UK. So I had to step back, obviously, that to learn the UK way of working. And so I started as a building inspector on site. So, but it was a great opportunity. So I was on site, one of the women on site. When I came here, I should have said I've chosen the path of the sector of building control. So my background over the last few years has been building control. So I starting on site in the UK as a building inspector on site, and then generally speaking, I think I had a lot of respect. Generally, of a few issues, few challenges on site. I've been lucky, I have to say, that with my past employers, I've been always been supported. I feel grateful. I've always feel, because even when we faced a couple of challenges on site, I've always been supported by the manager or by site manager, the clients as well. Not an easy. I mean, personally, that's my personal experience as a woman on site or in the technical industry, the building control, especially a young woman, Italian, not even English, I have to say, to be completely honest. Politely, I have to still politely, but they were wanting me to prove my knowledge. They were always asking questions, and the difference that I could see with my colleagues, male colleagues, everything was kind of granted for them. They were not asking me all of these questions. For me, okay, they were asking me a question and I will reply, respond. Then as soon as they realized that the knowledge was there, that was fine. I've always had a lot of respect. So then I think was quite ambitious, hard worker for a few years, but I've always looking ahead as a young woman thinking, okay, at some point I'd like to have my own family. With children, I was trying to think, how am I going to balance these, the work-life balance? I mean, how am I going to be able to do it? Also, I was looking at my women colleagues already with children. And I was like, oh, this might be an interesting challenge to face really ahead. It's been okay. Again, I've been lucky because my employer have been extremely supportive of me. And I have a daughter, she's nearly 5, and then I've been given a lot of flexibility with that regards even in work-life balance. Throughout my career, I must admit that yes, I had these couple of challenges as on site, not with site manager such. Actually, it was with the labor on site. So they were quite rude. They were saying it was quite interesting actually, it was shocking I should say, but they knew Italian, so I wasn't even having a conversation with them because I was visiting the site with the site manager, and then in the background they were saying very rude words in Italian. So there was quite an interesting time, really. I froze at the time, and I didn't know what to do. But then I said, okay, now I'm going to speak with my manager because I'm not going to let this go. I said, that's not right. It could be me, anyone really. Doesn't matter, Italians, any other background, English. So that's not right. And then it was, as I said, my employer at the time was very supportive. Overall, otherwise, throughout my careers, yes, I have also faced, unfortunately, some sexual harassment. And then it's not, I've learned actually about the definition of sexual harassment, I must admit, when I came to the UK, I have to say. It's different in Italy. It's not very well, it's a bit more accepted. I don't know, there's not such really an issue for most of the industry, unfortunately. That's quite sad, really. But here I've learned that actually certain comments, they're not okay. So they make me feel uncomfortable. They're not okay. I can say that. And that's okay also for people to respect other people's boundaries. So yes, I had like quite an unfortunate situation with one of my ex-manager, one of my manager. And then again, I just started a job, and he threatened me to end my probation period. So for a few weeks, quite a good few weeks, I didn't say a word. I didn't feel, I didn't have the courage. And I'm not looking for sympathy here, but that's my experience really. I was on my own pretty much in the country, started a new job. I needed income really. So I said, okay, no, I don't want to lose my job really, because he threatened me to end my employment, my probation period. With no technical reason, no reason is it's basically I just pushed back on some sexual harassment. That's what the reason why. But then after a few weeks, I have to say, past my probation period, I decided to open up, to speak up. I said, well, because I hadn't really forgotten about that. And then I said, oh, I wouldn't want other people, other women. It was very misogynist, really, to be in the same position. And having spoken up, I realized that other women had similar issues with this individual, but the company wasn't aware. The company wasn't aware only when I started, but thankfully the company took the right steps forward. So there was a formal process in place, really. So this is why I think I've been quite lucky, because overall, over the years, I've always been in this country. I've always been supported in my role as a woman, and then in the construction industry, which is very male dominated, as we know still. But I'm proud actually. I'm quite happy to where I've got to really, and then I've been involved with CABE more since 2013 roughly. Then I've been a member of the MPSC subcommittee, Membership Professional Standards Committee. I was invited, I was delighted to be part of the subcommittee. As a woman, also a young woman, I was like, oh wow. It's a bit also this imposter syndrome, right, guys? So when you say like, okay, why me? It's like, oh, is it me? Really? Why? I'm not doing anything special, really. But it's been a great experience. And then my name was put forward as a vice president. And again, this imposter syndrome came along again. It's like, oh no, that's fine. Okay, I'll go with it, but I'm sure, this is never gonna happen. And then actually the members, yes, decided that maybe I could be elected vice president. So extremely grateful to CABE, all the people I've been working with, the fantastic people I've met along the journey so far. They've always supported me. And then, yes, now vice president since of CABE since May this year, June actually. I think the inauguration in May, but it's probably officially from June 2025. Looking forward to the next couple of years more with CABE, and then it's the fantastic also work that CABE for Women is doing. And it's very important to feel, for women to feel supported, really. So they're not alone, and then everyone, we all more or less face challenges in life. Could be sexual harassment or any type of different discrimination, really. Could be a discrimination of any sort, really. So it's important to feel, to be able to feel supported.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks, Veronica. Grazie mille. I think that just a matter of interest, what made you choose the industry initially when you were in Italy?
Well, I guess I actually wanted to become an architect when I was quite young. So I chose the technical building surveyor. So because uh, there's two sides of me really. I love the engineering side, the numbers, the structure, but also the creative side. So, but I was more at the time thinking about the architectural side, creativity. But then I followed more, I think my rational side, or I said rational side, the numbers, engineering side, I would say, we call engineering side to president. So I stepped into the construction industry in a way, really. It's just improving also because the construction industry is improving the environment when we live in, really. So this was my interest and passion to making sure that it's very important, I think, for where we are. It is a very important environment where we live in, including the houses, infrastructure, and everything else is extremely important for the balanced life, in my personal view, really.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. And thank you so much for your support already for CABE for Women. Really appreciate. Looking forward to your presidential year too. That'll be coming out really quickly, won't it?
Yes, yeah, time flies.
It
Thank you.
does. It does. Next, I'd like to introduce Hanna Clarke. So Hanna is Digital and Policy Manager for the Construction Products Association and recently an honorary member of CABE. Hanna is going to, if you'd like to tell us about your role and your part in the industry too, please, Hanna.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And I'm just so delighted to be here and welcomed into the CABE community. I've got a bit of a different journey into this industry. My background and what I trained as was as fine art painter. That's what my degree is. That's what my bachelor is, fine art painting. And I needed a studio, so I picked up a temp job in a construction firm. The temp job lasted 9 years. The studio lasted 3. So, and during that time, I went into administration. And then I've got a very bad habit of sticking my nose where it doesn't belong. If I see a problem, I want to solve it. So I got into compliance. I ended up writing data architecture for plan preventative maintenance and a few high security plan PFI buildings and stuff like that. After about 9 years, I wanted to leave the construction industry. I didn't have the nicest time. I've had lots of mental health issues coming out of it. I think that's sometimes what happens when you try and do a good job in an environment which has got such high pressures on it. And although I didn't really enjoy my time in that construction firm, I don't think it's an abnormal construction firm. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. I think it's normal. So I decided I'm going to leave the construction industry. I'm going to go back to the arts. And so I got another temp job in another company called the Construction Products Association. And that was in 2017. So I've got a really bad habit of sticking around for a very long time. So when I joined the CPA, it was just post-Grenfell. So all my work has been essentially post-Grenfell policy reformation, industry improvement. And how I ended up becoming a fellow of CABE was for the work that I've done in competence. So from last year, I became the co-chair of the Industry Competence Steering Group. And the Industry Competence Steering Group is really about bringing industry together to bring consensus to the standards of competence. And CABE has been an enormous part of that, of course. So that's been really fantastic. So I was really quite overwhelmed and overjoyed to be given the honorary fellowship. And to meet all the people on this call. It's very lovely. I thought I would give a few examples of where I have had observations of challenges of being a woman. And I'm, to be clear, I'm not going to give examples of times where I've experienced like sexual harassment or sexual abuse or anything, because I actually think Sadly, that's very common, it's very normal. And I worry that sometimes that when we give examples the solution is kind of the question is like, is the problem bad men? I get bothered by that, because I think if we think about the challenge that we're trying to solve here, it's similar in a way when we're thinking about health and safety, and when we've got the the riddle triangle, and at the very top is like big calamities that happen that can have an impact to safety or life. And at the bottom is loads and loads and loads and loads of little things. So I thought I'd given a few examples of some little things that I've experienced, and that I think that if we think about these more and more, that that it could change how women are treated. And I don't think they're actually construction specific, but that's the industry where I've experienced them. So firstly, I did manage for a while a team of administrators, a team of female administrators. And during that time, I observed some things. So I decided to install 2 rules. The first rule was that I banned all the administrators from apologizing. And that was because I kept on coming in situations where when we were in meetings, when they were sending emails, and I had to kind of moderate quite a lot of their emails and stuff because we were customer facing, where these women would apologize before they'd done anything wrong, before they'd apologize for coming into the conversation or having an opinion or disagreeing with someone. And we are English, so people do apologize, but more than average, the apology was like a really big part of it. And certainly in emails, apologize. And what I think this does, and it's difficult as well, they're administrative, so you're on the technical back foot, although they've got kind of a very kind of overview of lots of the things that are coming. And actually, I think administration has a lot of insights into many companies, but it does give you that imposter syndrome. It does put you kind of in the back foot. So I feel that apologizing minimizes a woman before they've said anything. It's almost like you're kind of making yourself small. And I think people respond to that. So I had banned apologising unless I'd authorised it, which actually took a while to train through, but it did have results. The other thing I did in that team is I banned people calling them girls. And I think that they were professional women that have a lot of things that they were adding into it. Administration is often women, and it's downplayed. I always think that. And it's good administration is hard to do. It's really difficult. And it's the backbone of an organisation. It's underpaid and it's underappreciated. And everybody will be coming on, oh, will the girls do one of these things? Or can one of the girls sort out this? And I'm like, no, they are professional women that contribute an enormous amount to this. So we banned calling them girls. So those are 2 things when I was managing that team. The second observation I wanted to bring up was, this maybe is not a small thing, but men getting promoted when they're stupid. It's just, I had several examples when I was working in that company of men being promoted around me who were stupid. Men being promoted almost to get them somewhere else, sometimes just move them away, but also just for taking up space. And I'll give you an example of this. I had somebody join my team who was at the same level of me. We needed more administrative support. He joined the team and decided he didn't want to do administration and decided he was going to supervise some operatives. I don't know why. He decided that was fine. We complained because we needed more support on administration, but for some reason he took up that space and everybody went, oh yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. So what we ended up with, by the way, as an administrator as well, bad administration, probably why he didn't want to do it. I can't imagine he was a good supervisor. I have no idea what he was doing. But off he goes, does that. And then within 6 months, he is promoted to an authorised supervisor with an authorised supervisor's wage. And that was one example of maybe about 7 men that I saw while I was there or being promoted. And I never saw a single woman promoted the entire time I was there, not one. And I'm telling you, there was plenty of intelligent and well-acting women who were contributing. So that bothered me. So that's my second observation. I am being joined by my cat now, who has, it's Halloween, so we need a black cat. The third thing, I wanted to give an example in my current job. I have polycystic ovary syndrome. So for those who don't know what that is, for me, it really impacts my periods. It means that I have really long periods, actually. Sometimes they're about 3 weeks long, and they're very painful, and they have an enormous impact on my mood. Sometimes they can make me very depressed, sometimes they can make me very anxious, and sometimes they can make me full on explode, nuclear. Now, I can manage this to a certain extent with my medication, but it's not a foolproof system. And for example, right now, I've had to stop taking the medication for other medical reasons, which is very frustrating, and my poor CEO has been made aware. But there was one example a couple of years ago, actually probably more, where I had a meeting with another company that CPA had been working with. We've been working with them for a while, and this company had about a couple of years history of really messing us around. And so this particular meeting was kind of a culmination of a lot of bad blood and a lot of frustration and a lot of challenges and a lot of being messed about. But it also came at a time when I was going through an enormous mood swing. And I remember sitting in this meeting, it was this company, it was me and my CEO, and I could feel myself having a mood crunch. And it was almost like an out-of-body experience. When it happens, sometimes it's an out-of-body experience for me. It's like I'm a balloon and I'm inflating and I'm about to pop, and there's no stopping it, and it's not within my control. And I kept on thinking within this meeting, I need to get out, because I'm not just angry, I'm not just frustrated, I'm furious, I'm livid, and I know that this is going to end really badly. But how do you leave a meeting like that? How do you get out? I was thinking, what am I going to do? Turn around and say, I'm sorry, I'm just having like a really emotional time due to my period. Like, how do you do that? Or any kind of, I just couldn't work out how to exit. And so the result was I went completely nuclear. And we're talking shouting, crying, like poor language, everything under the sun, bursting into tears, running out of the room, tears and just running out of the room. Obviously, I apologized to that company. I apologized to my CEO. And after the meeting, I had a conversation with my CEO, and I kind of gave him a kind of a lowdown of what had happened, because of course he was taken quite unawares. He was like, what has happened? It was very surprising. And I gave him kind of why that had happened and the challenges I was dealing with. And he said to me, okay, so what do we do next? How do we make this so that this doesn't happen again? And so I have a strategy with CPA. It's in place. If I need to leave a meeting partway through, I just go. I don't give any excuse, nothing. Well, I don't, pretty much I go. If I don't want to attend a meeting, I don't go. If I don't want to attend a day, a week, I don't go. Obviously, I communicate with CPA as to reason why. And it's not a perfect system, because sometimes in the moment stuff happens, or we're so busy, everybody's so busy, and you're managing an enormous workload. So sometimes, like it or lump it, you've got to operate through it. And I'm not talking about pain management here, because I'm telling you, pain I can deal with. I can deal with a lot of pain. I had an operation on my back, and it was less pain than a period. It's not the issue I'm dealing with. I'm talking about the emotions. But the difference is that I have a company that I'm working for at the moment that supports me and recognizes that this isn't my issue. It's not me being at fault. It's that I've got an illness that I cannot control, and that if it's not supported, it has an impact on my professional reputation and on the professional reputation of my company. So having that level of support is so important. And I think when it comes to periods, when it comes to the menopause, when it comes to other biological challenges that women have, it is not on the table enough. It is not discussed enough. And what we don't see in companies is systems or strategies in place to recognize it, to make it something approachable, and to support what it looks like. CPA for me is unique in that my CEO was kind enough to turn around and not go, that was unacceptable behavior. They turned around and went, how do we deal with this going forward without any blame? So I'm very thankful for that, but I don't think it's the norm, and I think it's something that it needs to be kind of much more considered. That's it.
That's fantastic. Great insights. And you've brought up some really important issues there, Hanna. Things that and I think you're quite right. Quite often, it's the employer who it's the type of employer as that will actually demonstrate that they're going to be the best fit for more women within the industry. Really, it's that understanding. And I think you are right. There's quite a lot of people, a lot of males out there who want to put things right, who want to accommodate and want to know. In fact, we have quite a few queries through the group from men who have asked, what can I do to retain women within this industry? What can I do to attract more women within? And I think it's the nitty-gritty is understanding what it is to employ women and be serious about it, So again, I mean, this is maybe part of what the industry is about. But if we're talking about attracting, then, and you're a great demonstration of changing roles within you. We're talking about attracting women who are not necessarily who didn't start off in construction per se, but more traditionally on a professional route, but sort of found their way across there. And how do we go about that? How do we go about trying to attract more women, either who are working elsewhere, so older women, or schools and colleges are a different issue together. But we're lucky we've got Hanna Thompson, who's some head of training, Hanna, in LAPC.
Not anymore.
Oh, you're not anymore?
No, I haven't been head of training for 15 years or so, but I'll tell you more about that.
But you have been. You have been. So yes. So yeah. What are your insights, Hanna, into?
So I've been in building control for 40 years this month. My little moment. Nobody's given me a medal or a trophy or anything, so it's a self-awarded trophy. Which is really unimaginative, isn't it, actually, to be in the same career since the day you left school, which is what I have been. And I started off as a trainee building inspector, which is ironic now given what we're doing with trainee building inspectors, but I guess it shows that the world is still moving in the right direction. I started at 18 as a trainee. I was told subsequently that I was appointed because I was the only woman that applied, so that's nice. And if you talk to Lorna Stimpson, our chief executive, she will tell you exactly the same story about her first job and that she was appointed because she was a woman. But I suppose whatever works. So worked in local authorities for a long time, for 23 years. Then with some really, really supportive managers, and some equally really incredibly unsupportive managers as well, because I worked for several different, or 6 or 7 authorities. I once got asked in an interview by I suppose, 55-year-old man if I had a problem being female, which obviously clearly meant that he had a problem with me being female. And I just said that I'd been practicing for 25 years and I was quite good at it now, and it would be okay. And that was fairly it. What he meant was, we don't know what to talk to you about in the office. And once they realized I was into cars, it was kind of all right. And they found something they could talk to me about, just most people have been fine. I've had some amazing support from people who wanted to give me the courage to put myself forward, I suppose, and stick my head above the parapet and say, yes, I want to get involved. So I ended up being female chair of the Institute of Building Control's South Midlands region, which meant that I've met some most amazing people through not just local authority building control, private sector building control, other people in the industry. That kind of gave me courage. It's where I realized I actually really like going to meetings. I love going to meetings and events and stuff like that, because you meet great people, don't you? I then, when building control moved into the RICS, I was chair of the England and Wales professional group. I just I think unless you're prepared to put yourself forward and say, I want to be involved in running that, you're never going to help other people, are you? You've got to put yourself in there and then bring people up, you know, not get to your ivory tower and then pull up the drawbridge. That's a really mixed analogy, but you know what I mean? I think there are women that do that. I've worked with women who have got themselves to a higher position and then pulled up the drawbridge and said, right, I'm here now, I'm representing women, we don't need you. And that's not in the organisation I'm with now, thankfully. So I moved to LABC, as you say, as head of training. Set up our training department a long time ago, and I've done various roles with LABC, head of engagement now, whatever that means, going to meetings, that's really what it means. And I suppose what I'm happiest with that we're doing at LABC is our LABC Academy. So we have taken on, in the past 3 years, with government funding, 150 trainees, new trainees employed by us, and then mentored, hosted, looked after by local authority teams, so they actually learn the day job. So people are actually taken out on site and supported supported by us. So people have got two places to go to if they're struggling and they need support. The people that they're working with day to day, and also the team at LABC who are managing them. And we've just the first intake, out of the first 150, we had 19% female, which, I mean, it's not 50%, is it? But that's really high for the construction industry overall. We've just interviewed, we're just taking on another 35 across England and Wales, support from English government, Welsh government in terms of the funding, which is amazing. And to see these people, to see them, how they're coming on. I was at the LABC Women in Building Control meeting this morning, and 2 of those original batch of trainees are now on the group for that, you know, on the steering group. And that is great to see, because they're going to be us in the future, aren't they? They're going to be taking these things forward. But you still hear about the nonsense that happens. So this morning, one of the ladies, I was going to call her a girl then, but I'm never going to do that again, Hannah. So it's funny, isn't it? That my circle of friends outside work, we are the girls, but that's a self-imposed name, isn't it? So that's okay. One of them this morning was saying that she'd had a site. She won't mind me sharing this. She'd had a site. She'd been out. One of the people on the site was incredibly inappropriate, not just verbally, but also touched her, you know. She went back to work. She was really upset by it, because her gut reaction was to, you know, punch him or swear at him or whatever. And you can't do that when you're at work, can you? Because that's inappropriate and it's against your code of conduct and all the rest of it. She went back to work, and was the reaction, the support from work was to say, oh, we'll put somebody else on that site. That's not the answer, is it? The answer is to take somebody else out on site with her, let her carry on being in charge, but have somebody there to hopefully witness or intervene if necessary, but just to give real shoulder to shoulder support, not to just withdraw her and say, oh, you poor little thing, you come back in the office and we'll look after you there. That's it. It's totally wrong. And I hope that's isolated. I hope that doesn't happen very much. You know, we've all had incidences, haven't we, on site where what has just been acceptable. You know, I'm not somebody who faints when somebody calls me darling or sweetheart or whatever, because, you know, it's just a term, isn't it? But equally, I don't like being patronized. I don't like being put down, and I definitely don't need protecting, but I do need supporting. And that's why I like this group. We all run to each other, don't we, and support each other. I hope that in our own organisations, we've all got systems being set up where people can feel that they can be open and honest and rant about things, or cry or ask for support or whatever it is. I work really closely with the NHIC, National Home Improvement Council, and we do that for each other as well. So just get involved with other things, and then you'll get more support.
There's some really interesting points there, and it is disappointing to hear that things like that are still happening, but they are. I'd like to think that it's less and less compared to what used to happen just a decade ago, really, within the industry for women. But we're trying to change the image of the construction industry. But so how do we, if we're looking at attracting women into the industry, and also, so not just from colleges, universities and going into schools and promoting it, but we're talking about women who are working in other industries and getting them to move across to our industry. How do we do that? Because there's very low public awareness. Jayne, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, of course. Over the last 40 years, which is when I started back in the day, the participation of women in the UK construction industry has increased only marginally in percentage terms. I've got some statistics. In 1998, fewer than 7% of the full-time construction workforce in Britain were women. And in 1997, when the Office of National Statistics started to keep records, the percentage stood at 12.8%. That's 1997, so that's 10 years on from there. But the next 20 years, it stayed largely stagnant. For the 2000s and up to the 2020s, it's been hovering around 12 and 14%. So and where women make up that 15% of the workforce, only 1 to 2% are in on-site roles. The majority of women in construction work in office-based positions. We did hit a high after the pandemic in 2023. We got up to was it 15%? But it's shrunk back down again. We've got new entrants coming in. Apparently, statistics are showing that a third of construction graduates are female. So there is a sign that there's future growth. And there's female participation in apprenticeships, as Anna said about LABC's apprenticeship schemes. They've opened the doors to young women as well as young men to consider and realistically see there's a path for them. But there are persistent challenges, ranging from ill-fitting PPE, lack of gender-specific facilities on building sites. There's that stereotype of construction being macho, or dirty, or a sort of unprofessional environment. It's that stereotype of that people don't, out in the wider world, they don't see all of the different roles and opportunities and avenues you can follow in a career in construction. There are limited female role models in senior roles, and the work-life balances can put pressures on women who generally do still take the main responsibilities for family and maternity care and things like that, caring for aging relatives and stuff like that. And I've got personal experience of that myself. And of course, there's the pay gaps and underrepresentation in highly paid positions. So we need to change the culture, really. We need to challenge these outdated perceptions of the industry. Promote those diverse career paths, get it out there. I don't know where we start, probably going into schools, but educating career. I don't know if they have career advice anymore. I think it might have been slashed and burned years ago, but it does seem, and from my own children going through school, they weren't given very much information about the big wide world out there and all of the fantastic opportunities that might exist. And construction, it's got a role to play in promoting the diverse career paths that are out there from design up to leadership. And we need to, those who have worked in it and are experienced and have knowledge, skills and experience, there's mentorship and sponsorship and support networks that we need to bring together. we need to ensure that construction sites and workplaces have proper equipment and facilities, inclusive site facilities. Some of the toilets you see, the porta cabins. I know the men have to cope with dirty old rubbishy old toilets as well, but if we improve it for one, you improve it for all. I mean, I'm a great believer in sort of access for all. It has got to be good for everybody. And of course, any biases in hiring promotion, we need to sort of make sure they are sort of booted into touch. And it matters because innovation is. I've forgotten what the McKinsey. I think McKinsey's did a study into diversity in companies, and they said diverse teams solve problems better. There's more innovation when you have diverse workforce. Women, we can fill these skill gaps. It's always being talked about, the skill gaps. Why ignore 50% of the population? Who could step up to the mark. And as we've proved, we've all had long-standing and continuous careers in construction that have been interesting and stimulating and enjoying for us all. Generally pretty well paid. It's not, you're not working for minimum wage all the time. You can progress. There are paths for progression if that's where you want to take it. So we should push that, and we should help those women fill those critical skill gaps. Gender diverse companies also outperform other companies, so employers should open their eyes and see that we're out here. Inclusion strengthens the entire industry. So I mean, women are a growing force in construction, but we're still underrepresented.
Oh,
So
that's
what we've
great.
seen.
Yeah, that's great, Jane, actually covering a huge area there.
Do you want me to stop now? Yeah.
We just I was just going to move on to Julie for
Of course, yes.
as well. Yeah. So Julie, talking about we know what a great industry it is. We're all quite passionate about the industry. We've been in it for a long time. As Jane's just mentioned, the statistics haven't changed incredibly, not as they should have done, for 50% of the work of the population, to still not being that not being reflected within our industry. We know that there are different roles, and we know there's a misconception about construction generally being a dirty industry. Yet we all know that there are so many different paths within it. But how do we get that information out, Julie? We've got role models here which we use within our presentations, and you're all fantastic to have as role models, brilliant. How do we get that message out to other women to fill the skills gap, do you think, Julie?
I think it's something that you need to start off very, very early when kids, the younger generation are starting to look for their career. I really believe that there should be more careers education in schools. A few years ago, I went to a careers seminar at a school in Norwich, and there was all different genres of people there, different professions. There was police, there was hairdressers, there was myself, there was teachers, there was all sorts, and we were all on the stage, and the children in the audience, they didn't know who we were, what our job was, and they were asked to then say who on the stage, what was their job. They were given the list of the professions, and they were then asked to put those professions to the person on the stage. Well, I was a beauty therapist, and it's all about stereotyping, isn't it? And the guy next to me, who was quite a short guy, I can say that, he was actually a policeman, but he wasn't put as a policeman. He was put as a butcher or something like that. And the only one that was obvious that was a construction worker is because some guy didn't realise that he had to come sort of just in normal clothes. He came with his hard hat and his high vis on. Of course, they got that one right, didn't they? That he was a construction worker. And chatting to some of these kids afterwards, they all seemed to know what an architect was because their parents might have had work done on a property. Some of them knew what civil engineers were. Very, very few knew anything about building control. They hadn't got a clue what it was, because obviously that's my profession. I mean, I've been in construction for 5 decades now. I'm quite a dinosaur, I have to say, and building control for a good 2 decades, sort of 26 years in building control now. And, it was although it was a career change for me, it wasn't really, because I understood construction. So it was a fairly easy changeover. The worst thing was knowing the legislation, because I think a lot of architects and technicians, as I was, tend to think, oh yeah, I put applications in, I know the building regs. And it's not until you have to start checking somebody else's plan that you realise, actually, my knowledge isn't as great as building regulations as I thought. But you soon get to pick that up, and with good mentoring and training. And that again is something that I'm really, really keen on, is mentoring and training. I had to laugh this morning because on our post on LinkedIn, Gary Cass had commented on all of us on the committee, and he'd put against my name that he remembers working with me at North Norfolk when he first started his career, and I taught him how to fold drawings the British standard. Which made me laugh. And I went back to him and said, well, I hope I taught you a little bit more than that, Gary, because it always used to frustrate me that, I'd get to the drawings that you, because it was hard copies you took out on site. There wasn't all the tablets and stuff now, that it was an iPads, etc., to look at your drawings. You took out your hard copies, and it used to frustrate me when you got them out the file and you had to sort of really unfold them, whereas if they were folded to the correct way, you could just concertina them out and it would be much easier. So yeah, so I taught Gary how to do that. He didn't know that there was a British standard way to fold drawings, and that was something I was taught very, very early on in my career, working in a drawing office. So I've probably forgotten most of the things that I was taught, but to me, bringing whether it's girls or boys into the profession, I feel very strongly that we need to go back to them and pull them in at a very early age and say, well, look, it's not all about working in the cold, etc. Another young lad said to me, oh yeah, well, working in construction, he said, that's outside. He said, I don't want to do that. He said, I'm going to get really, really cold out there. He said, I want to drive a fast car and have a big house like the guy down the road. I said, so what does he do then? He said, oh, I think he's a plumber. I said, well, there you are. Plumbers, electrician, you're never going to be out of a job. It's not something, we're all about AI now. I don't think AI will ever replace someone like a plumber or electrician or a bricklayer on site. I mean, you might get some robots, maybe be able to lay bricks eventually, maybe. But there are certain trades within our industry that we're always going to need people, not just professionals, but we do need the people, youngsters, to come through and educated and say, well, actually, it's going to give you a good career for the rest of your life. In fact, whenever I've had like friends, kids, and I say, what do you want to do when you leave school? Oh, I don't know, I want to go into sports, something or other, and IT and all this sort of thing. And I say, well, you really want to pick a career where you're not going to be overtaken by computers, that you're always going to have a career where they need you as a person. I said, that's going to give you longevity, whether you're in on a trade or whether you're a solicitor or whatever. There's always certain professions where I don't think that computers, robots and AI are going to take those over.
But based on that, actually, some really good points. But it's a point that I was just going to bring up as well, is digitalization and AI, because I'm afraid from a professional point of view, there's no way of getting away from AI. This is something that we're going to have to embrace, definitely. But on a positive point of view, maybe if we're looking at different skills that we're trying to promote in the industry, maybe our net widens when we start talking about the future construction and the fact that we are going to need people who are more digitalized, or motivated towards IT more and understand AI, have an interest in it. I mean, if you look at technology alone, the use of drones is something quite exciting.
Yeah.
Whenever we go into, when we have schools visiting in the university, we always get the drone out because everybody wants to play with the drone, Now, the fact is that, in my profession alone, a drone is just particularly for civil engineering works, and you're looking at huge amounts of measurement, it is vital. It saves so much time and effort. And we know that that's just an example. There's going to be lots of other things that are starting, AI starting to lead the way with, legal documents, standardized documents and procurement and so forth. So maybe we should be looking at a different type of way of promoting construction to people. Veronica, what do you think?
I mean, I don't have a problem with AI and technology.
No,
I absolutely love technology.
sorry, Julia, I'm stopping you now. I'm going to go to Veronica.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, thank you, Lindsay. What I think is it's also important to share the good examples. As a woman, as a young woman, there's a lot of stereotypes out there, male-dominated environment, and then why can we not also share the good example, really? So explain to the young women going to schools, really. I think from the young women that they will be supported, so they will not be alone. So that is, it is okay to ask for flexibility, life-work balance. It is okay to be able to speak up about mental health issues, hormones changes, anything really to that kind of goes around women. The women work really slightly, but everyone really, not just the women. I think is being able to say, okay, we can talk about that, and then you will be supported along the journey. And then if the employer doesn't support you, it is okay to walk away from it. So I think as I've heard a lot of young women saying, "Oh, I don't have the personality to work in male-dominated environments." Like, no, they can actually. Everyone builds up to it. It's a skill. We can learn that, and it's been building up their confidence. There's nothing wrong. We're all human beings. It's just teaching that this strength. That there are good example. I mean, it's even in sharing knowledge as well across the board. With industry. I mean, deviating that surely now is like in a previous employer, for instance, they circulated. They actually made mandatory for all the managers training on menopause or. Yes, so actually, like even for old men, and I was having conversation with the senior people, and they were not aware actually of certain things, that's what could happen to a woman going through menopause or any other issues, really, not just menopause. So that's also very important. But bringing that example, the good examples to the young women as well, right? So that
Yeah. I agree. I think that awareness of what it means to be a female within the industry is important as well. I'm going to go to Hanna now, because I think this might you may be a bit more in tune with your background, Hanna. This idea of digitalization and the possibility of promoting it as a positive thing and widening our net to attracting more females into the industry, or more people into the industry generally.
Yeah, I think digital can mean so many things in so many different situations. One of the things that we're working on CPA is about standardizing product information so we can make it interoperable, make it transferable. What does that do? What is the option about it? That means that you've got the holistic information that you can make safe choices on, but also you need to spend less time asking construction product manufacturers about where is this information, or what does it mean in relation between this one construction product and this one when you want to compare it. What does that do? That gives you more opportunity to stop wasting time with the boring slug and bring your mind back into the fun, creative, exciting thing about creating constructed assets where we get to do everything in every part of humanity, where we get to be able to have people in social media, people who go to hospital, people who get educated, stadiums and any particular piece of life.
Do you know, Hanna, sorry, I'm conscious of the fact that we've never got enough time, we're running out of time, but that's almost a CPD event in itself, so we're going to be coming back to you again. Veronica, thank you so much for your time today. Our panelists, as always, amazing. We are looking at, we always run out of time for these events. If anybody has any questions that they'd like to send to any of the panelists, if they'd like to email through to CABE, and or even maybe we can ask Abby to put some of the email addresses up in the chat, that somebody could email us direct if they have any questions. But thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to the audience for attending, and thank you for your questions, and we hopefully will answer them later. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful to be involved.
Thank you.
Bye.